Sometimes it feels like I live in two parallel worlds. In one, mirrors, light, and confident steps and heels. In the other, a 6:30 alarm, porridge, a school backpack, and the warm scent of a child's skin. Between them, I'm the same person, just put together differently. I'm 30, a stylist in a prestigious salon. Here, people don't buy a haircut. They buy the illusion of control. And I know how to create it. The right cut, tone, styling, and suddenly a person feels in charge again. I watch them straighten up in the chair and often catch myself thinking, who will straighten me up? At home, I'm greeted by two little worlds. The older one, 10 years old, already proud, already has secrets, but still leans against me quietly in the evenings, softly, as if by accident. The younger one, just a baby, warm as fresh bread. Sometimes I stand by the crib and think, I have everything worth living for. And then I pick up my phone and go back to work chats, hair dye orders, client bookings. Life doesn't wait for you to catch your breath. My husband is handsome, athletic, the kind of man people turn to look at. When we met, he was all motion and few words, and that suited me. I talk a lot at work. At home, I wanted silence, simplicity. He was finding himself, football, training, plans that were about to work out. I didn't rush him. I told myself, everyone contributes in their own way, some with money, some with time, some with faith. I contributed with faith. He loved me when I was put together. Long black hair, sharp eyeliner, red lipstick. I saw how his gaze changed, like a man looking at a perfect storefront display. And I tried to live up to that. Not for likes, for us. Every couple has their own unspoken contract, what each one holds on to so the house doesn't fall apart. I thought our contract was about beauty and support. I stood for stability, he for strength. Now I see that was just my fantasy. He had his own men's world with our older son. He took him to Taekwondo training, talked about discipline and respect. I liked watching them leave together. Sports bag, sneakers, his hand on the boy's shoulder. I thought, this is what security looks like, a ritual that repeats. During those hours, I'd clean my tools, sterilize the attachments, reply to clients, and feel a strange calm. Everything's running as it should. We rarely argued, mostly just got tired. Sometimes he complained that I was too focused on work. I laughed, work pays the bills. Sometimes I said he wasn't bringing in enough. He'd go quiet, sulk for a bit, then come back with flowers and jokes, and we'd move on. Everyone has their own way of sealing cracks. Ours was silence and the illusion of, it's fine now. Honestly, I didn't ask unnecessary questions. Trust isn't always about confidence in the other. Sometimes it's about having no strength left to check. When you have a baby in your arms and 100 names in your appointment book, you choose what you have energy for. I chose to believe, not blindly, practically. In the evenings, I'd paint my lips red, twist my hair up the same way, and look straight at myself. Pale skin, sharp features, that same striking woman everyone assumes has it easy. At the salon, clients said, "You're so strong." At home, I whispered into the dark, "Strength is just what's left when you have no choice." Sometimes we dreamed. He'd say, "Just a little more. The football thing will click, I'll start earning, we'll go to the sea." I'd nod. Not because I believed in his plans, but because I believed in our we. I knew there'd still be sleepless nights, extra clients, endless shifts. But if we were a team, that didn't destroy, it sustained. I loved our simple things. How he'd carry the sleeping baby from the car in his arms. How our son shared his math scores. How we'd laugh together over his failed scrambled eggs. In those moments, nothing else existed. Not the chats, not the salon, not the bills. Just us, a home that smelled of baby cream and warm bread. And yet, somewhere deep inside, there lived a thin thread of anxiety. I'm holding everything together, alone. Schedules, groceries, lessons, payments. I told myself it was temporary, that soon he'd find his path and I could finally turn my brain off for one evening. I didn't know then that soon is a word with no expiration date. Back then, if you'd asked me whether I was happy, I would have said yes, because I knew how to arrange light and shadow properly. I always knew what to highlight, what to hide. Only one day, it would turn out the shadow wasn't a background, it was a crack. For now, it's still just us and the children. Routines, plans, my work, and his search. A home where everything seems in its place. And me, the woman with red lipstick, who every night wipes it off and faces a question she's still not ready to answer. From the day I found out the truth, my mornings were never the same. Every little ritual, a cup of coffee, a child's laughter, a client's call, suddenly lost its weight. And in the air, only one phrase remained: "Did you know?" No, I didn't know. Although, if I'm honest, I felt it. A woman always feels when the air in the house changes, when the same man is beside you, but between his words, there's a new silence, the kind he fills with something that's no longer yours. I just didn't want to look at it. Until one day, the truth entered the house, without knocking, without apology. That evening was ordinary. I was putting the baby to sleep, the older one doing homework in the kitchen. He came back from training, tired but somewhere else. A faint scent of unfamiliar perfume on his cheek. Not mine. I know every fragrance in this world. I asked, "So, who's the new coach? A woman?" He smirked. "No, just the moms sitting around chatting, kids sparring, same as always," and looked away. A few days later, a friend called me, just like that, casually. She said she'd seen him near the gym, with a woman. They were laughing, a short-haired blonde, very well-groomed. And somehow that word, well-groomed, hit the hardest. Because I'm well-groomed too, just tired. I drove there myself, just to look, not to make a scene, not to catch him. I'm not that type. I just needed to understand. And I did. I saw him standing there, leaning slightly toward her, listening, and in his eyes was something that had long been gone from our home. It wasn't passion, it was lightness, the kind he once sought in me and now found there, among other people's children and small talk about after-school classes. I sat in the car and didn't cry. Crying means there's still hope. I just watched as the image I'd held onto for so long quietly collapsed. That evening, I waited for him to come home. Not for explanations, for closure. He walked in, set down his bag, looked at me, and knew immediately. I asked only one question: is she worth it? He stayed silent. The silence lasted longer than any answer. I said calmly, "You know, I'm not going to make a scene. Just pack your things." He froze. "You're serious?" "Absolutely." And for the first time in a long while, I saw fear in his eyes. Not for us, for himself. He tried to explain, said he made a mistake, didn't realize how it happened, that she just needed some attention. And I thought, how easily men call betrayal a mistake, as if you can accidentally end up in someone else's arms. He left that same night. No slamming doors, no shouting, just took his gym bag and walked out. And I stayed with 2 children, the hum of the refrigerator, and the kind of silence where you finally hear your own breathing. For the first few weeks, I lived by schedule. Work, home, kids, salon, home again. Morning, strength, evening, emptiness. My older son was quiet, only once asked, "Mom, is Dad not living with us anymore?" I nodded. He nodded back and went to his room. Children often understand before we find the courage to say it. The baby cried at night. I got up, fed him, stroked his back, and whispered, "It's okay." Even though it was a lie, one I had to believe for their sake. Work kept me alive. As long as I held someone else's hair and smiled at clients, I could pretend everything was under control. They complained about their husbands, bragged about gifts, talked about boredom, saying all men are the same. And I smiled, thinking, no, we just pretend for too long that everything's fine. 2 months later, I'd stopped waiting for calls. He texted sometimes, about the sun, about money, about schedules. I replied briefly, without emotion. That too is a skill, speaking to someone who once was your entire world as if he's a courier. Sometimes at night, I turned on music, just to drown out the quiet. I'd look in the mirror, same black hair, same red lipstick, only the eyes were different, tired, hollow, as if dimmed from the inside. I didn't feel anger, only emptiness, as if someone had cut out a piece of me and I hadn't yet learned what to fill it with. And then, a couple of months later, when I had almost learned to live without him, something happened that I least expected. Life decided to make me feel again. I wasn't looking for anyone. Honestly, after everything that happened, I just wanted a quiet life, to work, raise my kids, sleep at least 5 hours a night, and stop remembering. But life always seems to throw someone your way right when you've decided you don't believe anymore. A friend convinced me to go out to a club. She said, "You're exhausted. You need to feel like a woman again, not just a mother and a stylist." I resisted, but then I looked in the mirror. Long black hair, red lipstick, skin like porcelain, and thought, maybe she's right. Maybe it's time, at least for one night, to remember who I am. The club was loud. The music thumped in my chest like a heartbeat. And then he walked up to me. Young, tall, athletic, 24 maybe. Short light hair, clear skin, and that quiet confidence you only have when you haven't yet been burned. He smiled. "You're not dancing. Why?" I said, "Because I know how to watch." He laughed and stayed close. We danced, drank, laughed. He was attentive, easy, never pushed. Didn't ask about my past, just listened when I chose to share. With him, everything felt simple. I didn't think about age or difference or the fact that I had 2 children. I just breathed. He texted, called, showed up after work. I never invited him home. I didn't want the kids to see someone new. He never insisted, and that honesty was its own kind of safety. We both knew we weren't ready for a family. He wasn't ready to be a stepfather. I wasn't ready to believe again. And at that time, that was enough. We walked along the embankment, sat in the car, kissed in the rain like teenagers. He introduced me to his friends, loud, cheerful, simple people. It felt strange and a little scary, but for the first time in a long time, I laughed until my cheeks hurt. He seemed pure. No exhaustion, no mask. And maybe that's why I let myself believe that things could be different this time. But one day, everything changed. We were sitting in a cafe. He looked distant. I asked, "What's wrong?" He looked straight at me and said, "I know you're talking to your husband again." I didn't deny it. Yes, I really was talking to him. He asked for another chance, said he missed the kids, that he'd realized everything. I didn't know what I wanted. I only knew the children missed their father. And this young man, he didn't understand that it wasn't about feelings. It was about responsibility. I said, "I'm not going back to him. I just can't cut everything off when we have children." He was silent for a moment, then said, "You're making a mistake. He'll hurt you again." We argued. He left. I thought we'd both just cool down. But a couple of weeks later, I found out he'd started seeing my friend. At first, I didn't believe it. Told myself it was gossip, coincidence, and then he admitted it himself, without guilt, calmly, as if describing something that just happened. I looked at him and didn't even feel anger, just exhaustion, endless, like the sea. Then came the second friend. Yes, he started seeing her too, as if testing how much it would take before I broke, before I felt pain. And maybe he succeeded, but not the way he thought. He didn't break my heart. He simply proved that I no longer believed anyone. I deleted his number, our messages, the photos, everything. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't cry. Because I think there was nothing left to cry with. That night, I put the kids to bed, sat down on the floor beside the crib, and watched them. The older one pressed close to the baby, as if protecting him. And I understood the only thing I truly have is them. They are the only ones who will never betray me. Everything else are just random episodes from other people's lives that I once stepped into through the wrong door. I deleted his number, our messages, the photos, everything. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't cry, because I think there was nothing left to cry with. That night, I put the kids to bed, sat down on the floor beside the crib, and watched them. The older one pressed close to the baby, as if protecting him. And I understood the only thing I truly have is them. They are the only ones who will never betray me. Everything else are just random episodes from other people's lives that I once stepped into through the wrong door. He came back into my life quietly. No promises, no flowers, none of the words that once seemed necessary. He just called and said, "Can I see the kids?" And I couldn't say no. He came into the same scent of the house, the same walls, only without their old warmth. The kids ran to him. The older one threw his arms around his neck. The baby laughed. And I suddenly realized everything I had tried so hard to forget was standing at my door again. He sat at the table, drank tea, talked about work, said that he'd understood everything, that people make mistakes. I listened, didn't interrupt. Words are a cheap currency once you've already been betrayed. A week later, he started coming more often. Brought groceries, helped with the kids, fixed the faucet, hung a shelf. Everything looked right, almost too right. And I saw how my older son smiled when the three of us sat together. And maybe it was that smile, the child's smile, that made me let him stay. That's how we became a family again. No big talks, no "let's start over." He was just in the house again. In the evenings, he'd turn on the TV, lie on the couch, call the little one to play. And I tried to convince myself that this was right, that children should grow up with their father, that I owed them a whole family. But there's one thing you can't fake, the look. When you look at someone and no longer see the person who was once your home, only a stranger who once knew how to hold your hand. 3 months passed. From the outside, everything looked perfect. He went back to training, I worked more than I should. We shared no's, plans, laughed at dinner. But in the house, there was a silence. Not full of love, not of hate, just emptiness. Sometimes I caught his reflection in the phone screen. The way he smiled, typing something, quickly hiding it as I walked by. I didn't ask. I didn't need to. Because the question, with whom, doesn't matter when deep down you already know the answer. One night, I woke up and he was gone. On the table lay a note. "Don't wait. I went out with the guys. I'll be back in the morning." I smiled faintly because even lies felt unnecessary now. The next morning, when he came back, I met him calmly. No yelling, no scene, no accusations. Just said, "You don't need to explain. I don't want to fix anything anymore." He stood in the doorway, silent. And I added, "Thank you for coming back then. But now it's enough." He left without a word, and this time for good. I didn't cry, just sat down on the floor among the kids' toys and felt not pain, not resentment, but relief, as if someone had finally lifted a stone I'd carried so long I'd forgotten how heavy it was. Now I live alone again. Mornings, children's laughter, getting ready, breakfast on the go. Days, clients, phone calls, hair dye on my hands, mirrors where I see myself again. Sometimes I think I've become a different woman, the kind who doesn't wait, the kind who just moves forward, even if the road is lonely. I don't paint my lips for anyone anymore. Don't check my phone, don't look for signs of attention. I've learned to be alone, not because I want to, but because I'm no longer afraid. When the children fall asleep, I step out onto the balcony, look at the city, the lights. There's no past in that light anymore, only me and the silence where I can finally breathe. They say time heals, but it doesn't. Only honesty heals, with yourself, with life, with what's gone. And now, when I look in the mirror, I don't see the woman who was betrayed. I see a woman who survived, and that is enough.
Sometimes I think betrayal doesn't begin in bed. It begins in silence. In that moment when you realize the person next to you is still there, but you can no longer reach them. When we met, she was the kind of woman you wanted to look at. Beautiful, well-groomed, confident, with that special look that seemed to say, "I know my worth." Beside her, I felt strong. She inspired me, pushed me forward, supported me. I loved her, truly. And then our second son was born, and everything changed. Not suddenly, slowly. Nights without sleep, days filled with work, evenings, kids again, chores, endless rushing. She stopped laughing, stopped painting her lips. Even her perfume, the one that once lingered in every corner of the house, disappeared. I understood. She was tired. I could see how hard it was for her. But with each passing day, I felt more useless. We barely talked anymore. No arguments, no fights, just silence. The woman I once knew down to every freckle had somehow become a stranger. I reached out. She turned away. Not because she didn't love me, but because all her love now belonged to the children. There was no intimacy for months. I stopped feeling like a man, just a person carrying bags, picking up our son from school, bringing home money. I wanted to be close, but the more I tried, the further she drifted into her own world. And then came the training sessions with our son. I took him to Taekwondo. That's where I first felt that someone still saw me. She, another woman, just smiled, asked how I was, made small jokes. Nothing special, but in her eyes, there was something I hadn't seen in a long time. Interest. At first, I didn't give it much thought. We talked after practice, discussed the kids, training, laughed. And suddenly, I noticed I was looking forward to those minutes. that I was choosing shirts again before leaving the house, that I was looking in the mirror, not as a father, but as a man. I hadn't planned anything. I wasn't looking for a lover. But what was missing at home, attention, lightness, life, I suddenly found there. She reminded me of my wife, but from another time, a version of her who used to smile more and breathe freely. I knew I had crossed the line the first time I lied, said I'd be late, when in truth I just sat in the car, not wanting to go home, because home had become too small for all the unspoken words. When it all came out, I didn't resist. She asked me, "Is she worth it?" I didn't answer, because it wasn't about her, not about another woman. It was about how my wife and I had already lost each other long before. I packed my things, looked at her, and understood. Everything I once loved was still right there in front of me, but between us stood a wall that words could no longer break. I laughed, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel freedom. I felt emptiness. Because the real loss isn't when you're kicked out. It's when you stop being needed. After I left, at first it felt strange. I thought I wanted freedom, but in truth, I just didn't know where to go anymore. I would wake up and not understand why. No voice, no smell of coffee, no children's laughter. Just silence, so heavy it rang in my ears. At first, I tried to pretend everything was fine. Worked out, met friends, but it all felt like someone else's movie. When you lose a home, you don't lose the walls, you lose the meaning. Sometimes I drove past the house, just to watch the light go out in the window. I knew she was there, with the kids. And that was the hardest part. Not jealousy, not anger, just the feeling that I'd become a stranger in my own life. I heard she was struggling, that she was holding on, working, barely sleeping. And inside me, everything boiled. Guilt, pity, pride. I wanted to help, but I knew she wouldn't accept it. Too proud, too strong. And maybe that's what I'd always loved about her. A few months passed. I called. Didn't know what to say, so I simply said, "Can I see the kids?" She answered calmly, "Yes, come." When I walked in, everything froze. The same kitchen, the same cups. The kids ran to me, and she stood by the window, beautiful, calm, distant. And I realized, in all the time I'd been gone, she had learned how to live without me. I started coming more often, spent time with our older boy, helped with the baby. Sometimes we talked, politely, carefully, like neighbors. Then one evening, dimmer, then a talk, then a night. I stayed. No promises, no words, just stayed. And for a while, it felt like everything was back to normal. The kids laughed, the house was alive, and I felt needed again. But it didn't last. She had changed. She no longer argued, no longer explained, no longer tried to understand, just silent. It wasn't forgiveness. It was indifference. I could feel her gaze pass right through me. Somewhere deep inside, she had already put a period at the end, and I was just temporarily living in her house. I began to notice familiar signs again. The phone face down, short answers, cold politeness. Only now it was the other way around. Now she was the one leaving. I tried to say something, but everything that came out was empty. I no longer had the right to demand, or even to ask. One morning she said, "We're done." No tears, no shouting, no blame. Just a statement of fact. I looked at her and understood it wasn't us who ended. It was her faith in me. I packed my things, and this time she didn't watch me go. She just closed the door. Now everything is calm. I rent an apartment, work, see the kids. Sometimes when I pick up my older son for the weekend, she opens the door, and I still smell her perfume, see that same light in her eyes. Only now, it's not for me. I'm not angry. I'm grateful. Because honestly, she was always the stronger one. And I just wasn't able to be there when she needed me. I wanted to be loved for who I was, when what I should have done was become someone she didn't have to be afraid to lose. I gave her a reason to stop believing in men. And even now, I still don't know how to become someone who doesn't need to be forgiven. Now, when I look at her from afar, I understand she survived. And I just became the man who once failed to hold on to what mattered most. Love doesn't die. It simply moves on to the one who's ready to carry it further.
You know, things have always been simple for me. Women came, women left. I never promised, they never demanded. All fair. I'm not the kind of guy who talks about love. I'm straightforward. If I'm interested, I'm there. As long as it's interesting. When I saw her, I didn't think it would turn into anything bigger. Beautiful, striking, perfectly groomed, a real woman with a story. Not from my world. I thought, now that's a challenge. Not just flirtation, a test. And I got curious if I could pull it off. She was older, more experienced, looked at me with that slight condescension, like she already knew none of this was serious. But that's exactly what hooked me. I have always been drawn to where it's difficult, where there's control and the urge to break it. We met by chance, in a club where she clearly didn't belong. Sitting by the bar, a glass in hand, that look in her eyes, tired and hollow. Not the kind of woman who goes looking for adventures, more like the kind who hasn't allowed herself any for years. I came up just out of curiosity. No pickup lines, no games. She answered calmly, and I knew I'd already caught her. I knew she had a husband. She didn't hide it. Told me he was an athlete, that things at home were difficult, that she lived for the kids, that she was tired of being strong. And that word, tired, was in everything she said. I listened, threw in a few lines just so it wouldn't be silent. But inside, I thought, that's it. She's mine. At first, short meetings, then more often. No confessions, no promises. I told her right away, look, I'm not about relationships. I've got others. She nodded and still stayed. I didn't try to make her fall for me. I just stayed myself, confident, easygoing, someone who doesn't demand or cling. It was convenient with her, mature, beautiful, polished. No drama, no tears. But over time, I noticed she started waiting for calls, for messages, for attention, and that started to weigh on me. I don't like when people expect things from me. For me, life has to stay simple. If there's a moment, live it. But she started looking deeper, searching for meaning, trying to understand why I never asked, where is this going? It wasn't going anywhere, and I didn't want it to. Her friends were different, younger, easier. I saw how they looked at me, and yeah, I won't lie, I liked it. One thing led to another, then again with another one. I didn't plan it. I just didn't see any reason to say no. When she found out, I didn't make excuses. Said it straight. I didn't lie. I told you I wasn't with you alone. She was silent. And for the first time in my life, I felt a little uneasy. Not because of what I did, but because of how she looked at me. No shouting, no hysteria, just that look. as if in one instant she realized I had never been the man I pretended to be. After that, it was over. She left. I didn't try to get her back. Why would I? For me, it was simple. But something in her died after that. I saw her later, still beautiful, still confident, but the spark was gone. Sometimes I think, maybe for the first time, it wasn't just a game. Maybe I really hurt someone for real. Or maybe I'm just getting older, starting to realize that you can't take everything without paying for it. But it doesn't matter anymore. In life, someone always breaks someone. Sometimes you're the one who breaks, and sometimes you're the one being broken. I just got lucky that this time it was her. Because women like that, you never forget them, even if they never belonged to you.
This story isn't about betrayal. It's about losing connection with yourself, your partner, and reality. Each of the three isn't an enemy to the other, but a person simply trying to survive inside their own pain. 1. Her. After the baby was born, her life shrank to 3 words: home, children, work. Everything that once was hers disappeared. The mirror became a reminder of who she used to be, not who she is. Her husband was still there, but emotionally, he was far away. She saw how tired he was of failing, how he hid his frustration, how his confidence faded. And instead of support, silence grew between them. When a man stops seeing a woman as a woman and only as the mother of his children, she stops feeling alive. And then another person's attention, even if fleeting or forbidden, becomes not temptation, but oxygen. She wasn't looking for love. She was looking for proof that she could still be desired. And she found it, but the price was higher than she imagined. 2. Him, the husband. He was handsome, athletic, confident, but inside full of anxiety. When a man loses his sense of achievement, he starts seeking validation not in what he does, but in how a woman reacts to him. He wanted to feel strong, wanted, needed again, and that's why he cheated. Not out of anger, not out of cruelty, but out of weakness. When self-worth collapses, flattery and attention become a drug. He needed someone to tell him again, "You're the best." But after that fleeting rush came realization. He'd lost the one place where he was loved without conditions. When he tried to come back, she was already someone else. Not because she stopped loving him, but because she stopped believing. Sometimes a woman can forgive betrayal, but she can't forget how it felt to be unneeded. 3. The young man. He was in his 20s, used to easy victories. Every woman was a way to prove he could. He didn't lie, didn't promise, didn't pretend. He simply lived without consequences, not realizing that adult relationships are not a game. He became a mirror in which the woman saw what had long disappeared from her marriage: passion, attention, interest. But he couldn't handle her depth, her pain, her reality. When a woman comes to a man not for fun, but with emptiness inside, it takes maturity. And maturity was exactly what he didn't have. He didn't betray her. He simply hadn't grown enough to take responsibility for someone else's feelings. 4. Why it ended this way. She returned to her husband not out of love, but out of a need to restore order. But order without feeling turns into silence, a silence louder than any scream. And one day, that silence becomes unbearable. In the end, each was left with their own burden. The husband with guilt, the woman with exhaustion, the young man with emptiness that no number of new faces can fill. All three lived through the same thing, a confrontation with themselves. 5. The conclusion. Love triangles aren't really about three people. They're about one who cannot choose between the past, the present, and themselves. She was searching for validation, he for confidence, and the young man for proof of strength. And each of them found exactly what they feared most: emptiness. But maybe that emptiness is the beginning of something new, because only through loss do we return to ourselves. Love isn't what holds you. Love is what lets go when the person beside you has stopped growing.